Tony Stark has lost his company, his best friend been framed for murder, but he still might not have it nearly as bad as some other heroes in the superhero community. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Invincible Iron Man issue number 8 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up from where the last issue left off, Rhodey was arrested after him and Tony's failed attempt to assault the Stark Sentinel factory, ended with both men framed for murder of the local foreman. Now Tony is going over his legal options with his lawyer She-Hulk, and honestly, none of the options are good. Jen says as a legal counsel that Tony should probably lay low and stop things from getting any worse, but as a Hulk, she says that he should smash, maybe run away to a foreign nation, or somewhere in international waters. Hey, I hear Krakoa is accepting people these days. But believe it or not, the worst is probably still yet to come for Tony ever since Fei Long took over Stark Industries and began corrupting Tony's Iron Man image. He's also been abusing copyright law to try and get Tony to turn over his current Iron Man suit. After all, Iron Man is the intellectual property of Stark Industries, meaning he basically owns it. Obviously, Tony doesn't want to give up the Mark 70, but his hands are currently tied, though he agrees to keep it for just a little bit longer to better investigate reports of Captain Krakoa attacking Washington, D.C. Again, you should probably know that this Iron Man story takes place before, during, and after the events of HELLFIRE Gala 3. Iron Man manages to rendezvous with Rogue as well as Captain America Steve Rogers. Obviously, things are a little tense between him and the mutant community right now. He admits that those giant Stark Sentinels are not his doing, and Rogue admits that the Captain Krakoa causing trouble in the nation's capital right now isn't Scott Summers, but someone else as part of a bigger Orchis false flag operation. In fact, by the time Iron Man realizes he's been had and that there's someone out there playing an entire chess game with the entire superhero community right now, things are already too late. By the time Tony flies back to New York, the mutant nation of Krakoa has already fallen, and Stark Sentinels are on the loose trying to round up any stragglers. Namely, Emma Frost, who has a warrant out for her arrest currently, Orchis and Fei Long having blamed the death on a bunch of the humans attending the HELLFIRE Gala directly on her. Emma isn't defeated or dissuaded, though. In fact, she's hard at work trying to figure out a plan to get back at Orchis, one of which includes making Wilson Fisk the Kingpin the brand new White King of the Hellfire Club. A White Kingpin, if you will. Yeah, that name's probably not gonna stick, I get the funny feeling. Now, whether Iron Man likes it or not, by investigating what was going on with the Stark Sentinels, he's unfortunately right now in the middle of the mutant and Orchis' ongoing war. You'll remember that it took an entire X-Men team filled with some of their heaviest hitters to take down just one Stark Sentinel, and Iron Man himself isn't doing much better on his own. At the very best, he can use his knowledge of engineering to slow these things down, but unfortunately every time Iron Man thinks he has a leg up on these things, they end up surprising him. Did you know that they have very limited stealth capabilities? Well, they do. In classic White Queen fashion, Emma is ready to turn tail and run away once the going gets hot, but you know what? Once she sees poor Iron Man get sandwiched between two Stark Sentinels' fists in what is admittedly a really striking image, she decides that mutant kind, including herself, could probably use all the friends they could muster at this point in time, and as such she decides to go back and help Iron Man, and she does so in a very creative way. That last attack knocked Iron Man out cold, so instead Emma decides to use her psychic powers to go inside his head and pilot his body from the inside out. It's while inside Iron Man's mind she sees where his psyche retreats to. And in a very fun little callback to the first arc, apparently where Tony goes when he's feeling his most vulnerable is that dirty little alley he fell down drunk in all the way back when this series first began. With Emma's help, she's able to steer Tony's body away from certain death at the hands of the Stark Sentinel. Unfortunately, activating her powers again in the open mean now the Stark Sentinels have her scent. They manage to slap a power-inhibiting collar on Emma, but before they can actually end up killing her outright, Tony manages to come to and tries to strike a deal with Fei Long. If the White Queen's life can be spared, Tony is ready to turn himself over to Fei Long without a fight, which of course puts Fei Long into a rather interesting decision, having to decide who he hates more, the mutants or his business rival who he feels cheated not only all of mankind but Fei Long himself out of finally getting the chance to colonize Mars like he always dreamed of. This brief moment of indecision actually proves to be everything Tony was hoping for, getting his armor to spirit Emma away from the fight and away from danger. Of course, this does end up putting Tony himself in a rather dangerous situation. I mean, what's to stop an enraged Fei Long from just flattening him where he stands? Well, actually, Tony comes up with a pretty good reason. Iron Man realizes that up until now, one of Orchis' best weapons in the fight against mutant kind was their own winning PR machine, but if these new Stark Sentinels, which are supposed to be protecting humanity, humanity turn around and murder a founding Avenger in cold blood in the middle of the street, well, then they would lose that good guy image they've been cultivating pretty damn quick, and it would also mean forcing a confrontation with the rest of the superhero community, something Orchis just isn't ready for, yet anyway. And so that was Invincible Iron Man issue number 8, everybody. Another really enjoyable issue that sees Jerry Duggan drawing a lot of really great material from what's going on in the X-Men series of books and blending it with this new Iron Man story. In fact, in many ways, you could argue this new Iron Man book is kind of sort of a stealth X-Men title. I have to wonder, are there people out there who are just reading the Iron Man side of the story, and if so, how do they feel? I'm actually a couple weeks behind finally getting to read this one myself and put up the video, and I gotta say, actually reading this one post Hellfire Gala and post Jerry Duggan's X-Men 25, this issue actually makes more sense, and probably hits a little harder too for what it's worth. Obviously, this series is gearing up to the big wedding between Tony and Emma, which I don't think so much will be a loving marriage as it is a marriage of convenience. What I am really interested though is that the next issue says that Tony Stark will see himself become the Black King of the Hellfire Club, which is actually a really goddamn clever direction for him. If he can't have his company and the legitimate power and privileges he's so used to as a rich guy, then wouldn't it be kind of cool to see Tony have to cultivate a bunch of illegitimate power on the street? I certainly think so. If this issue does have one big glaring problem though, it's that the first half of it is just kind of Iron Man flying back and forth between big events, and that does kind of bring the whole thing down a little bit. Still not to say it's a bad issue, just maybe not as good as the ones that preceded it. Overall though, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.